I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. What's happening to Colorado's economy? .710 KNUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, the answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. We get both sides. Folks, if you're looking for a great place to eat with family, let's talk Black Eyed Pea, locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. My whole family loves this restaurant. With 8 locations, there's sure to be one near you. Need a good reason to take your family out to eat at the Black Eyed Pea? How about this? You can get a free kids meal with the purchase of an adult entree. Yep, you heard that right. Kids eat free every day and at all locations with the purchase of an adult entree. Limit 1 offer per visit, dine-in only, valid for kids 12 and under. The Black Eyed Pea makes everything from scratch: slow-cooked pot roast and meatloaf, chicken fried steak and chicken tenderloins, grilled salmon and grilled or fried shrimp. They've got daily specials and senior discounts. They're the original scratch kitchen. It's home-style cooking worth going out for, and for you grandparents out there, take the grandkids and enjoy that big mile-high chocolate cake together. I love everything about this restaurant. You will too. Keep it in Colorado by supporting local. Let them do the cooking for you. Visit Black Eyed Pea near you. BlackEyedPeaColorado.com. BlackEyedPeaColorado.com. All right, here's the headlines we'll get into this hour. 2 of them. Goodness. Here's from CBS 4. Hundreds of Colorado business leaders call for action as nearly 100 companies leave the state. And then yesterday from the Denver Post, revisions show Colorado economy actually lost jobs last year. The number of people active in the labor force also shrank more than expected. Is Colorado's economy collapsing? Is that your experience? We'll get into all of this and more. Now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Tuesday morning, 49 and cloudy in Denver, 47 in the Springs. Expecting highs in the lower 60s today. News is sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning. For a new home heating and cooling system, contact your Lennox dealer, Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at pastorcamp.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Our top story, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is giving the Pentagon until the end of today to release more than 40 videos of unidentified aerial phenomena.
There are many people in government that we come across that will come up to us, some in various high-level positions, that have said, look, we've seen these things, or, we definitely think they're real. We just don't want to be labeled as crazy.
The Florida Republican is chair of the House Federal Secrets Task Force and says she's concerned about what she calls the government's lack of disclosure, especially when it comes to potential threats near military sites. Luna's deadline comes after President Trump recently ordered the release of government data on UAPs and extraterrestrials.
So you have your standard understanding of what would be able to function in this time and space continuum. And then you have these things that are just kind of operating outside of that. And what they tend to call these things are interdimensional.
Space, the final frontier.
I just had to do it. I just love that. I love that theme song so much.
Oh, it's fantastic.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
Oh, man. What if we found people with crazy ears and stuff? That would be so cool.
I've always
Big
said
eyes.
that the issue of getting humanity to finally come together is once the blue people arrive. The Andorrans. The blue people arrive.
Yeah,
they look weirder than the rest of
Yes.
us. Yeah, we're now against them. All the rest of our differences evaporate very quickly because the blue people. Yes, that's what will cure everything.
Yes, the blue people.
Yes,
that
that's
is
exactly
the
it.
answer.
It's a Star Trek
I love
rule.
it.
Yep.
I love it. President is set to meet with the U.S. ambassador to China at the White House today. Their meeting will be taking place after China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs blasted the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz as a dangerous and irresponsible act. A blockade of the strait is underway. The U.S. military said it will be blocking all of Iran's port and coastal areas, but is allowing ships to pass through the waterway if they are traveling between non-Iranian ports. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is hosting a meeting today between the Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors in an effort to jumpstart direct talks between the two nations. The continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon were a sticking point in recent negotiations over a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Today's meeting will reportedly aim at eventually securing a ceasefire and a peace deal, hopefully, along with disarming the militant group Hezbollah, the terrorists of Hezbollah. A Boulder bar near the CU campus has agreed to give up its liquor license for the next decade. Scrooge Sewell is being investigated as the site of a possible drugging and sexual assault of underage women. And the city board accepted the license agreement last night, and the assault investigations continue. Boulder police asking anyone with information to contact them. Denver police have arrested a suspect after a man riding a scooter was shot in the neck. It happened earlier this month near 18th and Stout Streets in downtown. The victim, Nico Francis, says an SUV with several people in it pulled up alongside him and a person shot him. Francis says he believes the shooter was looking for a fight. The bullet went through the side of Francis's neck and came out his shoulder. The suspect faces charges that include attempted first-degree murder. I didn't hear about that one. Wow. 2 congressmen are stepping down. California Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell is resigning from Congress amid accusations of sexual assault. Meanwhile, Republican Tony Gonzalez of Texas is also resigning from Congress. He's faced pressure to do so ever since ending his reelection bid in March after admitting he had an affair with a staffer who later died by suicide. Jury selection could start today in the New York rape trial of Harvey Weinstein. It's the second retrial on a third-degree rape charge. A jury last year could not reach a decision on the case while convicting Weinstein of a criminal sexual act against another woman. Those were the retrials of Weinstein's rape convictions in 2020, which were later overturned. Hey, Grandview High School graduate Lauren Betts, the UCLA star, selected 4th overall in the WNBA draft last night by the Washington Mystics. Betts led UCLA to the school's first national championship and is the highest drafted woman in Colorado prep history. The 6'7" center was named the NCAA tournament's most valuable player. She was surrounded by family last night at the draft in New York City. Avalanche beat the Oilers 2-1, and Calgary tonight at 7 o'clock. Rockies in Houston, and first pitch at 6:10 as they try to turn it around this evening. They'll be back at home on Friday against the Dodgers. 47 in the Springs, 49 in Denver. That is the latest. I'm Blake Olson. More of the Jeff and Bill Show ahead on News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver, and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in the Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
Your 710 5-day forecast going to be a cloudy start to Tuesday with those overcast conditions through the afternoon and evening. Morning temps mid-40s, highs low to mid-60s Tuesday afternoon. Daytime scattered rain showers across the plains might linger into Tuesday night with snow in the foothills to the west. Clearing early Wednesday with lows upper 30s. Sunny, dry, brisk for Wednesday, middle and upper 60s. Thursday we're going to see temps low and mid-70s. And another cool down Friday with rain and snow showers. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. We're going to get into this headline from CBS 4. Hundreds of business leaders call for action as nearly 100 companies leave the state of Colorado. But first, let's talk modern rugged leather. Folks, from city streets to mountain trails, your gear should go wherever life takes you. That's why at Modern Rugged Leather, every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather. Designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Each stitch, buckle, and strap reflects timeless craftsmanship and is backed by a lifetime warranty because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. So whether it's the boardroom or the back roads, Modern Rugged Leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern Rugged Leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Folks, life's going to take you places. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection. Find yours today at modernrugged.com. Again, that's modernrugged.com. All right, Colorado's losing businesses and jobs at an alarming rate. Now, the ones who've stuck around are calling for state leaders to make changes before things get even worse. The Colorado Chamber of Commerce has been sounding an alarm for years about excessive regulation. And last year, more people moved out of Colorado than into the state. The Chamber says companies are also relocating out of state as well. It released data showing that since 2019, 98 companies have either left the state or expanded elsewhere or scrapped plans to move here. That results in more than 13,000 lost jobs. And since 2022, Colorado has had a net loss of 34 public company headquarters. Some of these states seeing gains from Colorado's losses include Texas, California, and North Carolina. More than 200 businesses and civic leaders signed a letter to Governor Jared Polis, Hickenlooper, Mike Johnston, as well as Michael Bennett and Phil Weiser. It warns of dire consequences if Colorado doesn't become a more welcoming place for job creators. We're going to be hurting Coloradans, not just now, but the next generation after that. And we just want to course correct, said tech entrepreneur and investor Dan Caruso. Caruso led the letter and calls for a bipartisan 20-year strategy aimed at making Colorado the premier technology and innovation ecosystem. Certain states are winning and other states are losing. And let's make no mistake about it. We're in the losing camp right now, Caruso said. While U.S. News and World Report found Colorado as the 11th best state for business, down from 4th best in 2022, a study commissioned by the Colorado Chamber found that we are also the 6th most regulated state. Goodness. But you want to know what Jared Polis blames the problems on, Bill Thorpe?
Oh, what? What?
He said it's a lack of predictability. And did you know, he points out, that people can just put things on a ballot and sometimes they can pass?
That's a shock. I had no idea that happens.
That's his excuse in this article as to why things stink in Colorado, because of the citizen ballot process.
I wish he would have outlined which specific processes he is mad at. That if he would have said, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z, are there any that he was happy with?
No. Of course, he didn't mention any in particular. In fact, in what could be described as some of the best political speech out there, this is what he says.
Yeah, tell me.
This is not about one issue or even one bill. This is about a vision, Bill.
Oh, a vision.
Diagnostics and solutions that really speak to the entire issue of making Colorado the most competitive state and the best state to do business. If you could tell me what the heck that means, I'd be impressed, because I'm going to need to translate that political BS right there. Oh, this is it's just not one issue. Oh, it's complicated. And requires a variety of solutions. Though you could say that about anything. You could say that about Iran. You could say that about the border. You could say that about water issues. No, it's not just one issue. Yeah, it's complicated. It requires lots of things out there. This guy, let's be honest here. Jared Polis is finishing 8 years of having no idea what to do to make Colorado business friendly, which I always found shocking because he made lots of money in business. And I'm pretty sure the government didn't hold his hands through that. Now, we're going to have Stephanie Pico, former mayor of Centennial, on Friday, but she's got a great piece where she basically says what happened here was that one element of regulators built all their regulations. Another set of regulators built all their regulations. Then this set of regulators built their regulations. Nobody's talking to each other. So the safety regulators aren't talking to the environmental regulators, who aren't talking to the, union regulators. And if you're a business, you're sitting here going, I'm the guy who's got to navigate all this? It's too complicated. It's just too complicated. So, Bill, you see the headline. Nearly 100 companies have left the state. 34 public companies have relocated their headquarters. That's a net loss of 13,000 jobs for the state. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, it's. I'm not certain that I can get with you on the idea that Polis doesn't know how to grow, the economy or the businesses, only because of the thing that you cited from 2022, when we were ranked 4th best. So something was right, but now we're at 11th, and that is a fair critique. Also, the fact that we are 6th most regulated, I think, really plays into your point, and I think you're right about that the regulations and the people doing all the regulations piled many regulations on top of other regulations on top of other regulations. And we've lost companies. We've had people move out. I think it's interesting that they went to Texas, California, and North Carolina, because the odd one in that group there for me is California. Is if we say that California is overburdened with tax, overburdened on regulations, and the liberals are destroying the state, then we'd have to figure out why a portion of the 34 public companies that left here chose California. If it was that Colorado was so unaffordable, so woke, so burdensome with regulations, California...
Well, are we worse than California?
Well, the issue is
that what we're saying?
Well, the thing for me is you can't convince me that California is a solution. If the idea is that we are such a backward state that is overregulated and we're so woke, then I would see Texas, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, places like that. California tells me some of these companies are moving for maybe something else. But what I think is that not that we're worse than California, but in many ways to do business, we become comparable based on cost of living, based on problems with regulations, based on housing crunch, based on it may be a better commute. You may get a little bit better weather in certain areas, but I think that's the takeaway for me, is that we aren't necessarily worse than California, but the companies feel they can make that transfer and it's not a negative. And I think that's important.
Well, it's very important.
I think that's important, in the conversation.
That they're clearly not looking at California going, wow, that's worse than Colorado at this point. Like, if they're both going to be awful, you might as well live near the beach. But I want to hear from our listeners here with your experience in the economy. I actually think the economy in Colorado is very bad. I think it is collapsing. I think that the regulations is a big part of it, but a lot of people's taxes are going up. Saw somebody in Jefferson County whose tax burden on an office building went up 200%. 200% in 1 year on an office building, okay? It's not like we're experiencing a big boom in people wanting to rent out office space.
That's a good point.
So how in the world did the tax burden skyrocket like that? Because what you have elected, and this is across Colorado, and guys, this is the core problem, is you are electing leftist activists. I went through the Denver City Council. A majority of them have no business experience, no development experience. They have leftist activist protesting experience. That's who you keep putting in charge in Denver and Lakewood and other counties and cities around the state. And the result is you have people that would rather drive an agenda that would go, you know what would be great? Let's go build a government program to provide whatever service they come up with that day. And they feel really good about themselves. And they feel like they made the world a little bit of a better place by coming up with this government program. They don't know how to build businesses. They don't know how economies work. And we put them in charge of our communities and then wonder why you get headlines like nearly 100 companies are leaving the state, 34 public companies. And from the Denver Post, revisions show Colorado's economy actually lost jobs last year. And if you remember, some of the job growth from a report, I think it was either Advanced Colorado or Complete Colorado put out, that all the job growth is in government jobs. We're electing the wrong people to lead our communities. So feel free to join the conversation, be a part of it by giving us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Folks, let's talk Mountain High Appliance. If you're looking to upgrade your kitchen, laundry room, or outdoor cooking area, look no further than Mountain High Appliance, family-owned and operated for the past 31 years. They have hundreds of appliances already hooked up, for you to have a true try before you buy experience. So go play around in their kitchens. They offer professional delivery and installation. Shop confidently with the price match guarantee, ensuring you get the very best deal and special financing options. So when it's time for appliances, think Mountain High Appliance, your favorite appliance store. 3 locations in the Denver Metro, or online at mountainhighappliance.com, mountainhighappliance.com. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, the answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. If you're looking for some great deals this summer for summer camps, you got to check out our friends over at RockyMountainBargains.com. News Talk 710 KUS has arranged for you to have access to heavily discounted tuition to some of the best summer camps and schools in Denver and Colorado Springs. This week we're featuring 50% off tuition for preschoolers at Valley Christian Academy with locations in Colorado Springs. Go to our special discount deals website called RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details about this special offer. That's RockyMountainBargains.com. Supplies are limited. Restrictions apply. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always get a great deal. Here's the headline from the Denver Post. Revisions show Colorado economy actually lost jobs last year. The number of people active in the labor force also shrank more than expected. Colorado's economy, which has been middling at best this decade in terms of job creation, took a darker turn in 2025. The state lost 11,700 non-farm jobs last year, its worst showing since 2020, when the pandemic disrupted the economy in an unprecedented way. According to revisions published by the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment last week, the 12-month change through January was a loss of 11,000 jobs, with the private sector losing 7,000 jobs and the public sector losing 4,000. The state's labor force decreased by 5,200 people over the past year through January to 3,248,000, and the share of residents aged 16 or older participating in the labor force decreased to 66.8%, the lowest rate since September 2020. Only two sectors managed to add jobs. Surprisingly, education and health services. Everybody else, though, losing jobs. Sectors with losses ranging from 4,500 to 4,000 included trade, transportation, utilities, leisure, hospitality, manufacturing, financial services. Information lost 2,800 jobs. Professional and business services lost 2,300, and mining lost 1,600. Folks, the only thing that's growing in Colorado is the government. All right, let's go to the phone calls. Gary in Denver. Good morning, Gary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Oh, hi, Jeff and Billy. I have no problem with fewer employers and fewer people in Colorado. The numbers you were citing seem really small to me, and I'm pro people leaving the state. It's too crowded. We need less people on the highways. We don't need all these jobs. I remember about 10 years ago, Billy, you might remember when Amazon was talking about opening a headquarters here in Denver?
Oh, yeah, we did a lot of dance. We tried to woo them, yeah.
Well, and everyone was freaking out. There was a large contingency of people who didn't want Amazon because they didn't want all those people coming to Colorado because it's too crowded. So I think it's positive. When people tell me they're leaving the state, I say, great, take your family with you.
Gary, how do you think the state's going to pay for all the projects it's building with fewer people?
Well, you just have to stop doing the projects.
You think that works with Democrats in office?
Well, you're talking about government projects? Like,
sure.
Give me an example.
Government plans. How about we feed all the kids? We have preschool for everybody, and then we're going to build a train and all that stuff. What's going to happen when you have fewer people is that the tax burden on the rest of us is going to go up.
Well, the beauty about state government is they have to balance the budget. So they'll never spend our taxpayers the way I want to. So I just take that for granted. So as long as they keep my tax rate where it is now, somewhere between 4 and 5%, I'm fine.
What about the fees, though? They've gone up 3,000%.
I live a lifestyle, and I don't pay a lot of fees. I just learn to live within my means. And if there are fees like for automobiles, there's car registration. What I do is I drive my car for 10 or 20 years. I don't buy a new car every year. I avoid that fee. Other fees I also avoid.
I mean,
Just gotta take
Billy, do you
personal
agree with Gary
responsibility.
that Colorado would be better with fewer people?
Well, I can see the point, and it's interesting that Gary gave voice to this because one of the things I was talking about, or not talking about, I was thinking about, is that the fewer people would put downward pressure on home and rent prices. That if we were looking at the idea of wanting to get more people in lower incomes into homes, this would help, in theory, with fewer people. I think part of my problem I have with the Colorado budget, and I've got this problem with most private and public company budgets, is they always assume around 5% growth per year. They assume that's what we're going to do. No company ever does that. No state ever grows revenue 5% a year. But many of the spend that we have here in the state were designed on that exact kind of a curve, that we were always going to bring in more revenue year after year. And that's a problem. And that's an issue with the people that are planning and our budget and putting the numbers down on the paper, that you don't have that. And so what's going to happen if you don't bring in as much money? But I see this across not only state budgets, but I see this in business. I see very few times inside of private and public business that they are prepared in any way, shape, or form for revenues to drop. They seem to, wet their pants and scream around and light their hair on fire because they can't imagine that revenue would go backwards, even though that is a truism inside of economics. So I think it's just bad planning across the board. I do think that there is an issue, and maybe, Gary, what about trying to attract more businesses here just to maybe raise wages? That if we bring in more people that are going to get paid more, that maybe there's an argument that it would help with wages, and maybe help with wages having upward pressure, and maybe having people afford more things in Colorado. Because Lord knows, Gary, not a lot of us can go skiing on the weekends anymore. What do you think about that idea of trying to lure those companies here in order to provide better wage support? Is there an argument there that you would support?
Yeah, that's interesting. And one of the reasons we need more people to leave the state is so that I-70, we can go skiing and not run into a traffic jam every Saturday. But, as far as increasing wages, think about it this way. If more businesses leave and the people stay, then the businesses will have to compete for labor.
Yeah, the idea of the competition for labor and what we're doing with it. And now, Gary, I want your opinion with job growth in education and health services and going backwards everywhere else. What does that tell you about the direction of Colorado, positively or negatively, if those are the two areas that we're seeing growth and everything else is going backwards?
Yeah, I think as far as health services, it's probably because our population is aging. So that's probably explaining the health services. And as far as education, that's a little baffling to me, because that would indicate that there are more children in education, or it could be that, education is just bloated.
It's the latter. It's administrators. The number of teachers have not gone up at the same rate as the population. It's the administrators that have skyrocketed. So it's everyone to fulfill those DEI requirements.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Gary. Appreciate that.
A good text message in 7537. I wouldn't mind less people, but the wrong people are leaving. Earners and positive impact people are leaving. Takers are staying. Interesting.
Well, yeah, it depends. Depends on how we classify that. And
if it's businesses that by definition are building things and providing services, and those people are leaving, and education and healthcare and other things are the only places that are growing, then yeah, it is by definition people that create things that are leaving the state. Look, it's not like they just disappear into the ether. They're moving to another state because, as we've seen in this letter from business leaders, hundreds of business leaders calling for action, is that Colorado is not a competitive atmosphere for companies anymore. And they are in the business of making money. And when you make money, you provide jobs. You cannot provide a job if you don't make money.
Let's go back to the example that Gary brought up about the Amazon headquarters. I think that could be very appropriate, that in order to get the Amazon headquarters here, now we failed. But what were we trying to do? We were offering them a whole bunch of tax breaks and freebies. So in some cases, the companies that are here are producers, but they're also takers. Amazon would be partial producer, but also partial taker.
But
if
would
they
it be
had
a
moved their
net
HQ
negative,
here.
though? Would it be a net loss?
What it would be
economically?
Here's the thing: is it would depend on how we look at the table of income and everything else. It depends on how much money they're bringing in. It would depend on what kind of property tax and what they're contributing. It also then would depend on what wages they're paying to those individuals. You'd have to balance out what tax breaks they got. And then remember, Amazon is famous for paying people just enough and letting the state services pick up the rest, where they need support with food, healthcare, and education. So Amazon's famous for that, and so is Walmart. So that would be the other part, is they could be here, but it could provide a larger burden on the other end. So there could be a horse apiece on those. So we don't necessarily know.
It's fair to analyze all that, but at this point, right now, nearly 100 companies have left the state. The job growth in the state is dismal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
We
job
are
growth in the
down
nation's
near
dismal,
the.
though.
We've had 2025 was its worst showing since 2020. The state lost 11,700 jobs. It was as bad as being hit by a pandemic in this state.
And that's true for the entire nation. The entire nation had its worst job growth in 2025 since 2020. The entire country, I think we created less than 200,000 jobs the entire year, when normally you see somewhere around 200,000 jobs created in a month. Is normally a month over month. So as a whole, the job creation across the country was absolutely abysmal. But it does play into your point, Jeff, that if everywhere around the country has abysmal job growth, there's higher competition for those companies. So the idea for me, I'm not sitting here saying, well, everywhere sucked, so we can't necessarily say that that Colorado just sucked the least or sucked not as bad as some others. It does mean that in those times, Colorado failed to hang on to companies that were looking for a better place to do business in a bad economy. And they found and so this is what I'm saying is, when they went to Texas, when they went to California, went to North Carolina, they're also facing a problem creating jobs, and the companies went and moved there. So because it's not just that Colorado sucked at creating jobs, it existed across the country, and we still had companies move. It's in some ways proving Jeff's point exactly, that it was so bad here inside of Colorado, where we went from the 4th best job creation state in 2022 down to 11th best just 3 years later. That is a significant drop. We went out of the top 5 we were in the top 5 and we dropped out of the top 10 inside of 3 years. That absolutely shows that companies are facing incredible headwinds here inside of Colorado, and in a downturned economy, when job growth isn't great across the country, we still had companies leaving for greener pastures. So they found opportunities elsewhere that we couldn't deliver here. And in times when jobs are constrained, when they're shrinking and we have housing costs, that's the time in which you want to hang on to those companies. That's the time in which you want to hang on to that tax base. And that's the problem that I've got with this, is the people moving out and the companies moving out hurts the tax base. And we know that our budgets are built on a constantly increasing tax base and growth. Polis has said so much in the last 18 months when he was talking about the business problems and the budget problems here in the state, that they had modeled them based on expected tax revenue growth. Tax revenue doesn't always grow. It's not always going to be positive, just like business revenue does not always grow and is not always positive. But they didn't plan for it. That's a failure on their part.
South Park Mike texting in, small business owner here, new regulations and taxes are very much impacting us. And it's not just the Dem legislature. FMLI law, family law, voted in 2020 as an example. Regulations very much impact hiring and creating additional employees. right, South Park, Mike. All right, feel free to join the conversation. The headlines, again, coming from CBS 4, hundreds of Colorado business leaders call for action as nearly 100 companies leave the state. And the Denver Post, revisions show Colorado's economy actually lost jobs last year. The number of people active in the labor force also shrank more than expected. Is Colorado collapsing economically? Is it just too difficult? Why? And what is your experience? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Speaking of Danny C., Dan Caplis, what a guy. If you want your case to be taken seriously, you should choose a law firm that is taken seriously. Dan Caplis Law is taken seriously. Dan Caplis Law is a real trial firm, and they prove the truth when the insurance carrier does not pay all that it should in an out-of-court settlement. Dan Caplis is the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 11 straight seven-figure jury verdicts, including a record $205 million jury verdict in a wrongful death case, and the largest truck crash jury verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. They accept righteous injury and death cases on a percentage fee basis. There's no upfront fees and no charge for an initial consultation. Dan Caplis Law has offices in Denver, Greeley, Loveland, and Fort Collins. If you want your case to be taken seriously, call Dan at 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710, KUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show where we get both sides. Folks, we've been thrilled with Gyrie's and the blinds that we have in our house. Amazing, because I used to buy cheap blinds online that would break after like 2 months, and then you're installing them yourselves, and they don't match, and they don't fit well, and it was just a giant headache. So my wife and I went to Gyrie's in Parker. They're all over the Denver metro area. But we got to sit down with a professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. I was a little overwhelmed at first, but the designer was a real pro. She walked us through everything, helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has those solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. Here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come to you so you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor and get started today. Visit Gyrie's.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Gyrie's. You'll be sure to thank me. First-time text message, Billy, coming in.
Yes.
4413. My husband and I are the few who moved in to the state in 2025. We both moved here for work. I see both of our companies struggling to grow. It blows my mind that people continue to vote in leaders that don't have a growth mindset. We see this all over the country in blue states. The answer for them seems to be to keep voting further and further left, like that will solve the problems. To your point, 4413, you're exactly right. We've had socialists on this show before, and they argue that there's this tipping point out there, that we just need a little bit more, that the problem, the reason why our schools aren't performing or our healthcare is so terrible and expensive is that we haven't put enough money from the government into it. And if we just added a little bit more, well, then that would be great. And then I went and looked at the people that were actually elected. I got frustrated when they put a moratorium on data centers. Look, I understand the economic issues, but building any business, or the environmental issues. I understand the environmental issues and concerns and the water and the energy. Okay, I get it. But look, in any development, you're going to run into problems. That's what being a business leader is. It's addressing and fixing problems on a daily basis. And when I watch the city of Denver go, no, moratorium, we're not going to do it, and shut it down. I went and I spent that evening just looking at the biographies of all the Denver City Council people. And yeah, you had a few people in there that had some business experience, but a vast majority of them, leftist activists. That's what we're getting right now. We're getting people, they go into an election and they go, if you elect me, I will build all these great government programs for you. I will take these tax dollars. Mike Johnson, I will solve the homeless problem if you elect me. First of all, they never solve these problems because the government is not there to solve these problems. We have hundreds of millions of dollars. We don't even know where it went with regards to homelessness. And we still have, in fact, more homeless now than we did when Mike Johnston hadn't been elected. It's gotten worse. So they spend hundreds of millions of dollars building these programs, and then they're not naturally business developers. Business leaders are people that have to find a way to provide a product that somebody wants to freely part with their money for. They can't just rely upon tax dollars taken from people at force. They have to build things. They have to employ people. They have to get people to freely spend money with them. They are a unique set of community leaders that should be empowered in this state, not shut down by leftist activists that get elected to Lakewood City Council, that get elected to Jefferson County, that get elected to Denver, that get elected to our state legislature. Stop electing leftist activists. And to this point, right here, 4413, put people in leadership that have a growth mindset, that can build things that people want to spend their money freely with so that they can then generate revenue and then employ people. That's how it works, and it's not in Colorado anymore. All right, I'll get off my soapbox.
Now,
all yours. Mr.
yeah. Now, help me. And I went back to the texter. What do we mean by a growth mindset? How are we defining that in this conversation? What do we mean by that? I'm just wondering how are you looking at it? And Jeff, how do you read that as a growth mindset? What does that mean?
Well, in this case, 4413 responded and gets it pretty close in my mind, making it easier for businesses to function. You cut regulations, you make it more enticing. Like, imagine if there was so much opportunity in this state, because opportunity is the ability to make a lot of money. I want rich people. I want people to be rich. I don't have envy that somebody makes more money than me. I mean, naturally it does, and you have to kind of work on it. But I want so much opportunity that people are going, I got to start my business in Colorado. I got to. I'm going to make so much money. And in order to do that, I have to hire people. Right now, to this point, 4413, the regulations are so difficult that it just becomes a giant headache. I can go to another state and make more money. Well, that's the problem right there.
I see that, but then someone needs to explain California to me. California had a 4.2 trillion GDP. It's the world's fourth largest economy. They've added more than $1 trillion to the GDP since about 2020. And they're supposed to be overly regulated and high tax and super lib and run by all the activists. They've seen a greater than 10% growth in some venture capital in the last couple of years. So I understand the idea of the growth mindset. Then someone needs to explain to me California that continues to have a growing economy, the point in the last 6 years, surging the GDP by over $1 trillion in added revenue. And yet we wouldn't say that California is a low regulation, low tax state. What we say we need in order to create this growth mindset, the texter, the exact opposite of that exists in California, yet they see growth. So could it possibly be a combination of other factors, not just those?
Well, I don't think you can attribute Colorado's or California's great economy necessarily to its government, because California is experiencing high-profile exodus of companies and a slowing job market. But it's a big state with a lot of people. That's in part. But we'll continue the debate. Feel free to be a part of it. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115. Look, in the next hour, what happened down at the State Assembly regarding the credentialing and the voting process? Well, Maria Orms is going to be joining us. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.